Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a brand new video from the Game Theaters about how the detail everyone missed in Kindergarten 3. That's right, the third game finally came out, and now we have a game theory on it. So let's hop in and begin.
Kindergarten's back, and it's weirder than heck. With teachers on pills and a lab on deck, kids getting tested like rats in a maze, and a nugget cult chanting in barbecue haze. It sparks some weird
Barbecue
questions,
haze.
absurd and profound. Like, could chicken nuggets break you or fall to the ground? And what's with that janitor who's mopping up gore? With whispers and rumors that hint at strange lore. But none of those riddles stuck deep in my brain.
If y'all are wondering why this teacher is rhyming, that's literally a whole gimmick. Everything she says is a rhyme.
Like one that's both stupid and slightly insane. In Kindergarten 3, when logic heads south, how many kids fit in an alligator's mouth?
About 30.
Hello,
Was it
Internet!
four?
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that knows an apple a day will keep the smoking, definitely a real nurse, away. Just like we've been kept away from our favourite murderous kindergarten game for far too long. No, not you.
Not you,
I'm
Bon
talking
Bon.
about the
Ben,
pixelated
sorry.
comedy gold with gratuitous violence that is Kindergarten 3. In fact, it's been so long, you could have had your own kid and had them finish kindergarten while waiting for this sequel. But
Oh my
despite
God,
the
it has been
tardiness,
that long.
Kindergarten is still top of the class. We still play as an unnamed protagonist whose goal is to survive yet another death-filled day at kindergarten, reliving the same day
Oh,
over
yeah.
and over again until we start to piece together the ever-expanding mystery happening underneath these schools. But the magic of kindergarten has never been about the story, it's about the characters. And many of our favorite
Completely.
staff and students are back once again for Kindergarten 3. Like Monty, the genius entrepreneur who, due to a series of accidents,
Ooh.
now has robotic legs. Huh, maybe that's where the mimic got them from. Or there's the janitor who has a fondness for stabbing children, mostly
With his mop.
Monty. And of course, who could forget Dear Nugget, who now adds eating radioactive goo to his list of obsessions.
Nugget requires more goo.
Oh,
This baby daddy has the goo.
that's real.
Ash, please. This is a kindergarten full of monsters and murder. Anyway, with
Yeah.
Kindergarten 3 taking place in yet another good for nothing
bad.
kindergarten, we are also treated to a bunch of new colourful characters. There's Miss Lovelet, the theatre teacher who insists her students fully embrace their roles, death and
Oh.
all. There's Emmy with her bloodthirsty vegetable patch, and
Yep.
there's Davy, the son of the missing principal. But it's fine, he doesn't seem all that bothered about it because he's become infatuated with Linda, the humongous alligator just chilling uncaged in front of the kindergarten. But when
Yeah.
I was playing through the game on my own,
It's actually kind of a good question. Why is that an alligator though, and why is he so obsessed with it?
also found that I was drawn to Linda, just for totally different
I mean, I like lizards, so I love alligators and stuff, but still.
reasons. Not because she was in the war with the janitor, although that's definitely strange. It's because of this moment right here. Don't worry, the kid's fine. It turns out Linda doubles as a mode of transportation between the schoolyard and the
useful.
secret lab hidden underneath the school. Immediately, my theorist brain wondered, how do they fit in there? And then the game literally asked the very same question. It's like
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
taunting me personally, begging me to get to the bottom of this ridiculous premise. Well, like Nugget with a basket of delicious chickeny goodness, I too can gobble down dumb math like there's no tomorrow. Literally. So join
Gotta
me, theorists, as
slop
we
it up.
crawl into the belly, or at least the mouth, of the beast with nothing but a prayer and a tape measure.
Does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Sups. Gamer Sups GG energy drinks have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and
Pineapple cocktail, huh?
sugar.
To get
The
the,
box.
energy you need for a marathon game theory session and to get a discount, visit gamersubs.gg/game theory and use code game theory to save 10% on Gamersubs.
Oh, look! Hey, over here! Guacamole Gamer Fault 9000! That's Badgers!
Today. And that is actually a pretty good place to start. Where is lovely Linda actually storing these kids? In the game, it appears as though we just jump into her mouth, it closes, and that's it. Initially, I
Yep.
wondered if maybe they could be making their way into her stomach, you know, just for the sake of room, only to essentially get thrown back up on the other side. But when I
mean,
looked into it, there
It could make sense.
were a few interesting factoids that changed my mind. One, alligators have this flap at the back of their mouths, known as the palatal valve, that sort of acts like a fleshy barrier. It's there to make sure that gators don't accidentally swallow water while they're hunting underwater. And given we are using Linda to traverse underwater, I doubt she's going to be opening hers to let any children through. Even if she did, they'd run into reason number 2, which is that getting stuck inside a gator's stomach might be among the worst deaths they could face. And that's saying something given this game. A gator's stomach...
What would that be? Suffocation or digestion? Probably
super
suffocation.
inhospitable. When they're digesting a particularly large morsel of food, like say a child, they actually shuttle blood away from their lungs and towards their stomachs so they can pump it with more carbon dioxide and make their stomachs even more acidic. As a result, some estimates say that gators have stomachs that are as much as 10 times more acidic than any mammal. So yeah, these kids ain't surviving that, which means we're gonna stick to them staying firmly inside Linda's big old mouth. But before we can measure that mouth, we first need to figure out the size of our would-be crocodile hunter. Sorry, alligator. Now, while most of the children in kindergarten appear to be around the same size, that doesn't tell us exactly how big they are. I mean,
Bugs is definitely a little bigger than most of the kids, but just fat.
Their school is leaking radioactive goo. For all we know, they could be mutant children. Normally, this is where I would bust out the pixel measurements and look around the school to find something with a standardized set of measurements that we could use. You know, something like the height of a door or the spacing of bricks, something we know has a fixed measurement. And actually, the school has a bunch of those things available to us. The only problem is, how do I put this? The scaling in the school makes no sense. School doors can vary in size, but the widest standardized door is 6 foot 8 inches tall and 4 foot wide. But if the doors in this game aren't meant to be that same height, they would be 5 foot 3 inches wide. And if you kept their width more standard, it would make the doors only 5 foot 1 inches tall, which is too short for most adults to walk through. But then
that's literally a foot shorter than most full-grown adults.
We have air vents that are
a full-grown adult males, I should say.
Usually 2 feet by 1.5 feet, but here they're nearly the size of Miss Applegate's massive brain. Heck, if you compare our protagonist to a roll of toilet paper, which at most is going to be about 5 inches tall, he's only like 2 rolls of toilet paper tall. Of course, this shouldn't be too surprising. This is a pixel-based game after all. It's more about aesthetics than it is accuracy. But that does mean that for one of the first times ever, pixel measurements have failed me. Let's get some Fs in the chat, boys. We lost a good one today. And so, since scaling in our game isn't going to do us any good for our little experiment, I had only one choice left. I had to face reality. And by that I mean use the dimensions of a normal kindergartner and shove that into the maws of our angry reptile. The CDC tells us that the average height of your typical tyke is around 43 inches, or just over 1 meter. They also give us the average weight, which is about 44 pounds or 20 kilograms. But those are just the tip of the mathematical nugget iceberg. What we really need to know is how much space they take up inside of an alligator. If only there was a formula that could help us figure out a child's volume. DMV, I thought you'd never show up. Since all humans, even children, have roughly the same density, around 1 kilogram per liter of volume, we can use the formula density equals mass divided by volume, plug in our values, and boom, we find out that our average kindergartner should have a volume of around 20 liters. Math so easy, even a kindergartner could do it. Okay, maybe like a super smart kindergartner. Now, this does bring up the slightly obvious point that children are not liquids. They're notoriously hard to stuff into small spaces, animatronic suits notwithstanding. But for the simplicity of math, we're going to assume that our child can be contorted in whatever way is necessary to make sure it fits inside Linda's mouth. I mean,
I get what you're getting at by showing this, but Nugget's head is literally, I don't even know how to say what it is. It's like you took his head and just turned it completely upside down. Because that's meant to be his body behind him.
When Lily describes how they fit, she does say it's very uncomfortable. Plus, with how ridiculous this thing gets, it's really not gonna matter that much, trust me. So we have the standard size of a kindergartner, making our next question, how big is the inside of Linda's mouth? Surprisingly, despite spending days and days looking, there didn't seem to have been any kind of research or scientific papers out there about the internal volume of an alligator's mouth. I know, I was as shocked as you are, but just before I was about...
I guess she could technically just take one of the skulls, measure that, and bing bada boom.
To head out with my ruler and get the results firsthand, I was able to find this. This is an actual 3D model of an American alligator skull that was scanned
Perfect.
from a real alligator skull. It was uploaded to Sketchfab by Holiday Lab, and the skull sample originally came from the University of Missouri Vertebrate Collection. So shout out to those guys. My still attached limbs are forever grateful. Now we can import
Thank
this
you.
model into Blender and start the real magic. All we have to do is create a shape inside of Linda's mouth and use that to perfectly tell us how much space is inside those jaws. Once that's done, we can then use Blender's scaling tool to resize
You know, quick question. Do alligators and lizards have tongues? I've never thought about it.
our Linda to be the size of a typical female gator, which is 8.2 feet to 2.6 meters long. So can Linda's mouth
She
fit our
big.
little 20-liter guy? Heck no! And it's not even close. At this scale, Linda only has an internal mouth volume of 1.6 liters, around 12.5 times too small to safely carry our boy. At first, that volume
God.
might sound a bit small. I mean, gators have been known to attack and kill small children before, including those in today's age bracket. But as this video sort of demonstrates, gators tend to funnel their food down their throats as they swallow. They don't hold the entire snack in their relatively small mouths. But don't think that means we're done, loyal theorists. If an average
Oh, we are
alligator
far
would be
from
too small
done.
to comfortably fit our protagonist in its chompers, how big would Linda have to be to make our trip possible? Well, back to Blender. But instead of scaling our Linda skull to match the real world gator, now we're going to take the volume inside of the mouth and scale that up until it's exactly 20 liters. Just enough to fit our little friendo uncomfortably inside. Doing that, we get that the length of
That's
the
gonna
head
be
that would be
difficult.
needed to fit our protagonist inside would be
I mean,
around
interesting.
0.833 meters or 2.72 feet. But that is just the length of the head. What about the rest of the body? Well, it turns out that American alligators' bodies are approximately 7.3 times the length of their head. That means our 0.833
Alright.
meter head would correspond to an alligator that is 6.1 meters long.
Oh,
That
that's
is over
big.
20 feet. If Linda was that big, she'd be bigger than the largest verified gator ever on record by over 4 feet. Just over the size
Holy.
of the tallest average kindergartner, funnily enough. But here's the kicker. We are not the only character that hitches a ride on the Linda Express. Oh, no, no, no. Later in the game,
Yeah,
we
we're
see
only
not
one
one,
of
not
three.
two, but 3 children enter Linda's mouth at the same time, meaning Linda has to be even bigger than we initially calculated. If we assume that all 3 children are the same size as our protagonist, 20 liters, that means this new beefier or gatorier Linda would need to be able to fit a whopping 60 liters of children in her mouth hole. That's
She big is what we're getting at.
roughly the size of the gas tank in your car. A gator big enough to hold that in its mouth would need to be an absolutely gargantuan 8.76 meters or 28.7 feet long.
Nearly 30 feet! Good God! No one would be able to survive that. Not even, I'm sorry for even saying this, but not even Steve Irwin.
That's about half the length of a bowling alley. No thanks, I'll stick to skee ball. But even that still doesn't represent Linda's true size, because at the very end of Kindergarten 3, she manages to fit even more inside of her mouth. She wolfs down 4 kids, as well as 2 bunny rabbits and a guppy. The dog and the bird take the scenic route. because
Oh, yeah,
having
that's
them
right, they
also
take the
fit in there.
slide.
Now that would be ridiculous. Thankfully though, this time someone had done some of the hard work for me, as I found this paper on the average volume of rabbits, which gave me the answer of 3.5 liters. And the guppy, well, it's a guppy. In the real world, they
Yeah.
basically take up no space. Plus, they're super squishy. So, adding all the
Yeah, very
80
small,
liters for our
so that's
4
fine.
children and the 3.5 liters for our Oh, Linda ate one of the rabbits as payment? Well, that's one less thing to worry about. So, 83.5 liters from our 5 passengers that made it. The guppy, which is basically too small to count, means that the actual size that Linda
Yeah, like that guppy would barely even be 0.0001 liter, I bet.
would need to be to barely ferry all of these characters down to the secret lair would be just shy of the length of a school bus.
Ooh, what the-
9.8 meters or 32.1 feet.
My
Turns out she doesn't
God.
need to be mutated by radioactive goo to become a Godzilla. She already is one. Although, if we were to take her final size and give pixel measurements a second chance, you would find that this magical goo has turned our sweet little, or big Linda, into a behemoth with a final length of 17 meters or 57 feet. That is bigger than the length of the Hollywood sign and nearly as long as an entire cricket pitch. How big are these tunnels underneath the kindergartens? And yet, our perspective shows that we are still the same size as 2 rolls of toilet paper. I told you the scaling in this game was whack, but hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on...
Alright everyone, well that's going to be the end of that because I have nothing to even say about Big Gator Mouth. Well, except that. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original be in the description below, and I'll see y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.